Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic for you today. Let's do it. What's your creepiest glitch in the Matrix story? Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, ask and listen for shoutouts, and have a great day.
I had a dream about a coworker. She loved dogs and would always ask me to share pictures of my GSD and Libra whenever we'd talk at work. In the dream, she was on a couch crying. My Labrador is a very emotional, connected dog. She goes to anyone she thinks is sad, which is exactly what she did in the dream. My coworker looked at me and said, "Thank you for sharing her. I feel better about all of this now." I found out at work the next day that my coworker had tripped at the top of her stairs and died that night. The dream still freaks me out when I think about it. It was so vivid and clear. While this may not seem creepy, I can tell you the experience most definitely was creepy. This happened when I was 8 and working in the yard with my mom. My mother and I were doing the spring planting in the flower bed around the house. I went inside for a pee break, and on my way to the bathroom, I had to walk through the living room. I entered the living room through the kitchen, looked up, and on the other side of the LR, I saw sitting on the couch none other than my sister. She was wearing her school uniform and was looking towards me, but not at me. Never said a word. Nothing really unusual, right? What makes this a glitch? My sister was hundreds of miles away at boarding school, not helping us plant flowers and certainly not sitting at the edge of the couch giving me a blank stare. My little 8-year-old self reversed course and locked himself in the half bath until he regained the courage to go back through the house and finish the planting hostas. Has anyone else experienced long, realistic dreams where you're knowingly in the somewhat distant future? I had one dream a few years ago like this. Don't know exactly what year it represented, but I'd guess maybe 2030s to 2040s. I knew I was middle-aged at least. It felt like I was there for a complete day in regular real time, except I knew that I was essentially just visiting, and whatever was going on there had no consequences for me, and I was free to wander around. I was invited into someone's apartment at one point, and was looking around thinking, wow, so that's what the future design trends will be. I need to remember this. And I was studying this centralized high-tech control panel on the wall for all the smart houses and type stuff. Unfortunately, I didn't see any cars, or if the city there was some forced population registration thing going on with tents or booths set up outside various stores, and the people manning it were threatening me that I didn't have the new ID card yet, but I knew I wasn't actually there and could safely ignore their threats. I was in this vivid dream so long and got so used to the new future environment that when I finally woke up in my own bed in real life, it felt like I had just traveled back in time. Much to my relief, I wonder if I'll have some major crazy deja vu in another decade or so. Once when I was about 14-ish, I got up to get ready to go to school as always. Our bathroom sink and mirror were next to the door, and I was brushing my teeth. I saw another and heard my 4-year-old sister run past the bathroom through the mirror. Now mind you, there's no other way back to her room, since we only had one hallway leading to all the bedrooms, and it was past the bathroom. I went to the living room, kitchen, and dining room to find her to send her back to bed, and I couldn't find her anywhere. I went to check in her room to see if she snuck past me, and she was in a deep sleep, so I knew it wasn't her immediately. I told my mom about this when she got back up, and she just said, "You saw that little girl too?" Freaked me the hell out. Never saw her again, thankfully. I was walking outside at 2 a.m. looking at my phone and listening to music with my headphones. I was completely zoned out. I was about to cross a street and briefly glanced if there was a car coming. I looked the wrong way, and if the light was green or not. Right as I'm in the middle of the road, a car is basically a meter away from me, and the last thing I see are the blinding headlights right before my knees and the horn blaring through my music. A fraction of a second passes, and I almost fall off my feet because I was expecting the impact and bracing for it. I open my eyes and see myself a good 10 feet away from the edge of the road. The song had changed. The light for the cars is green, and I see the red taillights of a lone car driving along the road. My heart is pounding out of my chest, and I had to sit down for a while. I get home and start reading about near-death experiences, and I stumble on an idea called quantum immortality. Not sure if it messed me up even more, but the idea that if you die in one parallel universe, your consciousness still continues in the ones where you live. I was more heartbroken about the thought of my mother having to bury me in my original universe than I was about my own death. Nothing nearly as creepy as some of the other ones, but I was at Burger King, and I was playing in their little playground area. You know, the ones with all the tunnels, stairs, I don't know if it's the right term, but anyway. I distinctly remember going in circles in this one tunnel for like 4 to 5 rounds, until I stopped and thought, wait, why am I going in circles? And then I continued and realized the tunnel didn't go in circles, but it led up. Thing is, less than a minute ago, I was going around and around in the same tunnel over and over again. So, I retraced my steps, went through the tunnel again, and arrived at the top once more. It was like a time loop that broke. Maybe I was just young and wasn't paying attention, and was just excited the tunnel and just going back in, or I was an idiot kid. But this really scared me as a 9-year-old. I was at my grandmother's house, and she has this rug by the fireplace. My dad was standing there and started to kick it, about to try and straighten it out. Seemingly by instinct, I said, "Why are you always kicking rugs about?" I got puzzled looks from everyone. You see, at that moment, I had a distinct memory of him doing it only very recently before. It felt like hours ago, not days or weeks or whatever. I can even see the rug that he was kicking before, blue with white squares and circles on. But for the life of me, I can't remember where or when it happened. I even asked my mother, and she hasn't got a clue. It's like I've generated a false, random memory, but it felt real. So real. I'm not even the confronting type, so it was unusual just saying something about it, but it was so compelling. Not sure if this is a glitch or what, but it kind of freaked me out. It sounds so innocent, but the idea that I might not be able to trust my memory is terrifying. I can't describe how real it felt, but I also know that it never happened, at least not in the way I remember. This is a story I've told many times, and there have been many theories about what the F this could have been, but I never got an explanation. I was sitting in geography class, the Netherlands, and just paying attention to the fun class of my awesome teacher. There was one person sitting next to me, and 2 other classmates in front of us, all just listening to the teacher, and about 28 other kids in the room, scattered around. The teacher asked me a geography question, and I start answering it. The whole class is looking at me as I am talking about this question. Earth, blah, blah, blah. Climates, blah, blah, blah. You know how it goes. Now here comes the weird shit. The girl in front of me, who was looking at me as I was talking, something happened in the empty space between us at about eye height. Now, it's very hard to describe, and I will try to do my best. Out of nothing, this bright white flash, about 10 centimeters in diameter, appear. It makes this weird grinding noise, kind of like when you rub two pieces of styrofoam together. It looked nothing like electricity or anything, but it was so strange. The only way I can explain it is that it kind of looked like the scene in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone where Hermione fixes Harry's glasses. Out of her wand comes this thing that kind of looked like it but smaller. At this point, I was like, am I having a stroke? Now, this thing, it happened for everyone to see, right in front of my face. It left behind some smoke, too. It moved like it was morphing, if you can understand that. So I froze and asked, did you guys just see that? And the people around me, including my teacher, were like, what was that? Everyone in the close vicinity saw it. A very sweet smell emerging from the flash stayed for weeks after. It felt strange after that. We were kind of baffled and shrugged it off afterwards. I couldn't sleep that night thinking about what it was, especially because so many other people witnessed it. Does anyone know what this could have been? Thank you very much in advance. I'd be happy to answer any questions to clarify stuff. Never did anything else like that happen again.
The glitch in the Matrix stories are some of my favorites. And, although you could read it and be like, no way. I mean, if somebody took the time to write a 2 to 5 minute story about an experience of theirs, I mean, I believe it. Strange coincidences happen and stranger ones will happen as well. Anyway, have a great day, guys, and see you then.
My bathroom door is right outside my bedroom door. So if I were to open the bathroom door, I can see my bedroom. I normally have both of my cats in my room. I keep a child gate in my doorway to stop the dog from sifting through the litter box. One night, I had to use the bathroom. I shut my bedroom door behind me to keep my cats in my room for the night. If I were to keep my door open, they would both run out and steal my sister's cat food. I finished in the bathroom, washed my hands, and opened the door. As I opened the door, both of my cats jumped down from the child's gate and ran to my sister's room. They jumped in perfect unison and landed next to each other. In the moment, I thought my door must have been left open, and they must have pushed it further open. I looked at my bedroom door, and it was closed. I looked around to see if anyone would have let my cats out, but it was 1 a.m. and everyone was asleep. I was so confused and swear that both of my cats teleported through the closed door. To this day, I have no idea how that happened, and it still freaks me out. This was in freshman year of college. It was me, friend A, and friend B. On one night in the fall semester, all of us, off in our own dorms and alone, had panic attacks, went to sleep at the same time, had the same dream, and woke up at the same time the next day. I'm not shitting you. The reason for the panic attacks was different. One friend's PTSD had been triggered. I was dealing with some chronic illness stuff, and another friend was stressed about homework. The dream involved two people walking at night in a city and being saved from a sniper. It then cut forward to a plane jacking over the Amazon, with the passengers of the plane being forced to jump out. It then cut forward to a house in the Amazon with a very detailed layout and an interior I can still remember very well. The house belonged to the descendants of the couple who had been saved. Each of us played a different role in the dream. Friend B had been the sniper on the rooftop who had failed in their mission, and then had died during the plane jacking. Friend A had not been present for the assassination attempt, but had heard about it and died after jumping out of the plane. I had saved the couple, and instead of dying, I safely made it to the ground after jumping out of the plane, and then went into the house below. Certain details different between our dreams, such as exactly how many seats were on the plane, or the color of the curtains in the house. But it's really fucking eerie. When I began to describe the dream at lunch the next day to friend A, they stopped me to explain they'd had the same dream, and I had them write down everything they remembered. When friend B said at dinner that they had the same dream, we had them write down details too. Neither person heard more than half the dream before I stopped and told them to write down what happened next. I honestly can't think of how three people with very different schedules who watch different shows and usually go to bed and wake up at different times from each other managed to sync up like this and experience exactly the same things. By age 21, I'd pretty much been suicidal my whole life. I genuinely just wanted to die, but didn't see any purpose of continuing to live. The night before my 21st birthday, I had a dream. My mom's mom, who was probably the most supportive person to me growing up, met me in this big old house. There was a party of sorts going on in this ballroom. Everyone was dancing, drinking, talking, etc. I recognized so many of these people from old family pictures. They were in different periods of clothing, some looking modern, others like pilgrims. Grandma introduced me to some of them. They were all really happy to meet me. It was a great time. I'd never felt so welcome anywhere. Toward the end of the dream, a lot of them gathered and my grandma said I can go home or I could stay there with them. I seriously think they were giving me the option to just die in my sleep, which I thought was what I always wanted. I said no. A bunch of them hugged me, and my grandma showed me to the front door. It was really emotional to say goodbye, and I haven't seen her or any of them in any dream since. The weirdest part is here. As I was about to leave, the door started glowing red, and a deep, disembodied voice said, "You've been visited by the demon of Worthing Bridge." I have no fucking clue what that means, and Worthing Bridge is apparently a bridge club in England. That's it. Nobody else has experienced anything like that. Regardless, thanks Grandma, and thanks random demon for keeping me alive. Some might not think this is the creepiest glitch, but I was 100% shaken by it at the time. Well, at the beginning of 2010, I went to the movies with my good friend Jay to see the new movie The Book of Eli. It had just come out in theaters a few days prior. Our little farm town was so far off the map that going to the movies was pretty uncommon, but we both were uncharacteristically pumped to see this random film. To put this in perspective, we had to drive about an hour and a half to get to the nearest AMC. We get to the theater, sit down in our seats, and I'm staring at the advertisements when I get a strong feeling of deja vu. Not just a sense of being in the theater before, but being there with Jay to watch Book of Eli, sitting in this exact way, which we had never done before. Instead of fading away on the back burner, like the other instances of deja vu I've had, it got proceedingly more potent as the film started. From the opening scene of the movie to the twist at the very end, it was like I was watching the movie for the second time. I kept nudging Jay, saying things that I knew were about to happen, like, he's gonna miss that first shot. The second one will hit, but nothing happens. And they're gonna hold up in an old house, and there's a bunch of guns in the sofa, and other things that couldn't have been guessed. The first few times my buddy was brushing it off, saying to just watch the movie. But as I proceeded to correctly predict the events of the film, he also started getting freaked out. At the very end, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt what the twist was and couldn't help but tell my buddy. When the film concluded, he quickly got out of his seat and marched out of the theater almost angrily. When I got to him outside, he was upset with me, saying I must have gone and seen the film without him. I swore up and down that there was no way I could have gone to the theater without him, and that I wouldn't lie to him if I did. He was my oldest friend at the time, and like I said, going to the movies in our town was a big deal. We drove home silently as I tried to wrap my head around what just happened, while my friend brooded over the thought that I lied to him for the fun of it and refused to admit it. When we got to my house, I asked my girlfriend to explain to Jay that I had been at the house all weekend and asked her if we went to the movies, which she said, not since Zombieland, and Jay frantically yelled, but he knew the whole movie. I still to this day don't know what had occurred, but I will remember it forever as the strangest, most divine event that has ever happened in my life. That bridge. This sounds fake, it really does, but whether or not you believe it is your choice. So randomly you have a really vivid dream about something really average like a family dinner, but it's like really real, and you wake up and it's just kind of stuck with you. I had this dream and we're in a car, so we were driving across this bridge. This me up. Not sure why, but this bridge made my heart race and made me sweat a shit ton, like what the... Later that day, we go somewhere and I see that fucking bridge. As we go over it, nothing happened. I'm like, why am I freaking out? It's a dream. So we drive forward and turn left, and it's the same bridge, 20 feet away from the original, but it's like deja vu, all the same cars, and same trees, and same river. My sister's like, holy sh... At this point, everyone's so confused and lost right now. Next, instead, we turn right. Deja fucking vu. It's the same fucking bridge. So we're all like, what the actual... And then we come out. This is a big river with a 200-foot bridge, and the nearest bridge is a mile away. I know what I saw, and I'm sticking to it. I'm very scientifically inclined, but what the... I don't know what it was, and I don't know how to explain it. This was about 6 months ago. I was reading about simulation theory a lot, and it was creeping me out. I constantly was questioning every aspect of reality. Nothing felt real. One day I was at a friend's house and smoked a bit of weed, which I do often, so I wouldn't have produced a crazy effect in me or anything. But if you've ever smoked and had unpleasant thoughts, you know that weed can amplify feelings of anxiety. So I'm driving home on the highway a few hours later when I feel safe to do so at about 5 p.m. and I begin to have a panic attack thinking about the simulation. I think, oh God, is anything real? Is anything real? Am I real? How do you define real? If we live in a simulation, why is there so much suffering? Is our reaction and adaptation to suffering being measured and analyzed? I immediately want to get my mind off this train of thought, so I open Spotify and put on the Beatles on shuffle. The song Let It Be comes on. Immediately I notice the sunset is looking beautiful and shining directly in my eyes. In the lane to the left of me, a car pulls up slightly ahead. On the back right bumper, the car has a smiley face down on it that looks like this, and it's staring directly at my eyes. I don't know if I believe in simulation theory, God, or anything like that controlling our reality, but in that moment it absolutely felt as if something was trying to calm me down. I was looking at the smiley face shining in the sunset as the chorus to Let It Be played. It felt like I was being told, don't panic, be happy, the world is beautiful, let it be. It was exactly what I needed to see and hear in exactly the right moment. It felt like the simulation exists and was telling me, it's okay. This could be a random set of coincidences, but it did not feel like it in the moment at all. It was reassuring ultimately because I think that even if we're in a simulation, that doesn't diminish the beauty that exists in the world or take away from the importance of being happy while we are alive. Hopefully after we're gone, we'll find more answers. Not me, but my great-grandfather. My grandma told me the story of how her father was a soldier in the Red Army in World War II. She told me she was there, laying on the battlefield disarmed after he lost an eye. He felt dizzy, like he's going to faint, and while he slowly started closing his eyes, he saw a hallucination of my grandma, 9 years old at the time, his eldest daughter in front of him. She was calling him, telling him to come over to her side, smiling. He started to crawl, trying his best to move his body. He had a gunshot wound, and when he finally was there in front of her, she stopped smiling and disappeared. Right after that, he heard a loud noise behind him. A bomb landed in the exact place he laid before. He always said that my grandma saved his life. He died in the 80s, though I never knew him. This is what my gran told me. Another thing she told me recently is that when my mom was growing up, she, my grandma, and my grandpa separated. Fast forward a few years, somewhere around the 80s, when my mom was a teenager, my grandma had a friend named Lonka. They all lived in Russia, and he had literally her soulmate. He was helplessly in love with her, and she kept rejecting him over and over. Him and my mom had a good relationship. He was around in their house a lot, and he helped her with homework and school stuff and offered advice. He was a good guy after all. When I asked my mom about him, she said that he and my grandmother were planning on getting married, but my grandmother denied that, and she said that he only proposed to her to help with finances, and she refused. Anyways, after a few years, they kind of parted ways and eventually stopped talking to each other. One night, my grandma's preparing to go to bed, and she suddenly gets a very strange feeling. She shrugs it off and goes to sleep. She wakes up an hour or so later with the same feeling, now 10 times stronger. It irritates her so much because it's like she knows something's going to happen. She tries to go to sleep again, and then suddenly she feels like she's being choked. She struggles to breathe. She actually felt physical pain around her neck. She started coughing and she was really scared. But then in a second it just stopped. She was okay again. She got out of bed and went outside to breathe the air. She then went back inside and called Lonka's son, who lived with him at the time. She asked his son to check on his dad, that it was very urgent, even though it was very late at night. His son couldn't find him at home, so he went outside and searched. Lonka was found in the woods the morning after, hanging with a noose around his neck.